The entire first season, the Lauren Agee case, Breathe, is being heard today on Lauren's 28th birthday, August 19, 2021. Lauren is celebrating her birthday in heaven. Our thoughts are with Lauren and Sherry. To start back with your decision to drop the lawsuit, because I get asked that probably weekly. Somebody will email me and ask me why, and I explain to them, but I'm going to have you explain how heart-wrenching of the decision it was.
So after we won the appeal, of course, we were elated that it was going to go back to 𝐊𝐏, and we were going to have a chance to actually have what we were hoping for is a legitimate court case, where we would actually have people listen to our evidence and everything would be legit. But then Judge Young sent a friend request to our youngest daughter via LinkedIn. Now, why would a judge who just lost in an appellate courtroom send my daughter a friend request on LinkedIn? We looked at that as a threat. We knew we were going back into his courtroom, and we've already lost one child. Do we really want something to happen to our youngest baby? So Mike and I talked, and we made a decision that we were never going to get a fair shot in his courtroom. It's just, small town politics. We had spent over $300,000 up until that point to try to get justice. There would be no telling how much more money we would have to spend and not get anywhere. So we made the decision at that point that we would focus on other things that would be better. Like we thought that trying to change the laws to help other families. Also, too, down the road, Mike and I are looking into politics. We might endorse a candidate or maybe run for a political office so we can start getting these laws changed. So we walked away from what we thought was a losing battle to pursue interests that we think are better for Lauren and for other families.
That's exactly what I think. I remember taking Mike into one of those conference rooms right after one of the rulings. I said, you need to get out of this case, get out. You're not going to get a fair trial from this judge. And we know his character already. I mean, we know what type of person he is. And the fact that he is a judge in the state of Tennessee is almost, besides embarrassing, it's shameful. And for anyone to stand up for him for what he has done to females is equally shameful. You, Sherry Smith, would never see a fair trial there, ever.
No. And to be honest, we felt that our safety was in danger. It's just a different world in that part of the state. And it's not a good feeling knowing, and in my opinion, the corruption, the political games, the threats to women in that part of the state, it's scary.
Right. It's a great place to commit a crime against a woman.
And nobody's going to do anything about it.
Not one person. Yep. They're just going to sweep it under the rug.
So Mike and I mean, we have not gone away. I don't want any of the listeners to think that we've stopped. We're just doing things behind the scenes. We're gearing up for something much bigger down the road. So I want to tell the listeners, don't lose faith. We're very motivated. And recently, there was an MTV show called True Life Crime that did a 1-hour show on Lauren. And they did a very, very good job. They covered a lot of the things, Sheila, that you covered, obviously, in the podcast, but they added their own take on it. And a lot of their audience is more of the age of Lauren now, if she were alive. So you're looking at a millennial age group. And these people are dedicated, motivated. These listeners, they watched this show and they immediately sent emails to the governor, called his office, sent so many emails that I was notified by one of them, or excuse me, several of them, that the server went down. So I don't know if Governor Lee was very happy about that, but there was a huge group of people that were demanding that Governor Lee do something.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second. With one phone call, Governor Lee could do something.
I know.
And why hasn't he, Sherry? Do you have any ideas?
Doesn't want to ruffle the wrong people's feathers.
So that goes into the problem with what's going on in the state. You can get away with a crime against a female and nothing's going to happen to you.
Nothing. The state of Tennessee should be embarrassed.
They should be. It's actually outrageous. And having seen so many females go through the system wherever, whatever happens, whether it's a simple assault or a domestic or rape or murder, and then the families go in trying to get some sort of justice or resolution, you're treated like garbage.
They treat us like we're bothering them. And how dare we? It's unfathomable. And MTV talked to me about how it was so hard for them as well when they were trying to find out information about Lauren, trying to get files and trying to talk to Sheriff Ray. Of course, he would not be in it. But they picked up on it and how nobody wanted to talk about Lauren's case. No one wanted to give up any information anywhere. They felt that there was something odd about how the state was handling Lauren's case.
Yeah, and we have our opinions on that.
You do.
So, but one of the things that happened recently is someone reached out to one of the campers. And the camper must have forgotten that there were eyewitnesses who had no dog in the hunt that saw the camper on the cliff that night. However, the camper is saying he wasn't there. What did you think about that?
I think the response from the camper was so calm and cold and calculating that it is not the response of an innocent person. And hear me out on this. If somebody were to send me a text saying, hey, Sherry, I think you were involved in some kind of, where somebody died, some kind of activity, I would be, as an innocent person, no, I'm not. Oh my gosh. No, I am innocent. I would be emotionally defending myself. I wouldn't send a text, well, let's look at the evidence. I wasn't up there. It was a rehearsed response from somebody who, in my opinion, knows more.
Oh, absolutely. And the good thing about the show that just aired is that there were people that came forward that have no reason to come forward other than being good citizens. And that's what it takes in cases. So in Lauren's case, you have had numerous people reach out to help you. How has that helped you?
Numerous people have come forward after the MTV show aired. The age group that watches this particular show is an age group that wants to get involved. And it's also an age group that Lauren would be in right now. And so many people have come forward with texts, emails, or they have other people call me, and they have information. People are talking. I think it shook up a lot of people when this show aired, and they had some of her autopsy pictures on there, of course. They talked about the blatant inaction of the DeKalb Police Department. And that made people furious.
You know, I do want to mention one thing that has always baffled me, how the 911 calls all disappeared on Lauren's case.
And how convenient.
Isn't it?
And when I bring that up, everybody looks at me like, oh, I'm from DeKalb. Oh, we're so sorry. Oh, well, they're gone. I mean, where is the justice in that? Where is I mean, it just mind blown that these people treated us the way that they did, and at this moment think they're going to get away with it.
You know, that's one thing I want to point out to the listeners. Forever, Patrick Ray will be tied to Lauren Agee's case and how he mishandled it. Jeremy Taylor will always be the detective on Lauren's case and how pitiful he did as a detective. Are you kidding me? He's always going to be tied to this case. It doesn't matter if he's 80 years old. Somebody's going to be like, you're the sheriff who mishandled that little girl's case. You covered up what?
Somebody knows what he did. They do.
Don't you think a lot of people know what he did?
Yeah, and it's just a matter of time before people get tired of it, you know, and if he's not a sheriff anymore and he can't be a sheriff forever, then somebody might talk. Heck, they might be talking right now, and we're just waiting for the right opportunity. I feel that somebody's going to talk. Yeah, I feel that one of the campers especially has been shaken, and he's running his mouth a lot, and people are telling me what he's saying.
And you know what, Sherry, that's what it takes, is somebody being tired of keeping a secret. And especially if they did or did not have something to do with it. If they did, take the hits, because you don't want to live with it the rest of your life. If you didn't, stand up and do what's right. You'll feel better. I'm going to pause for a moment for a commercial break. Did you know that the popular horror movie Scream wasn't just some made-up story from the mind of a creative screenwriter, but it was actually inspired by the real-life crimes of the Gainesville Ripper? Moms and Mysteries talk about this creepy connection in their recent episode based on true events, along with a few other scary movies that have a basis in reality. It was truly fascinating and maybe a little terrifying. Moms and Mystery is a true crime podcast hosted by quick-witted friends Melissa and Mandy, formerly known as Moms and Murder, highlights a real crime every Tuesday. The moms balance their delivery of facts and levity, making you feel like you're sitting in the same room having a conversation with them. A new year is a great time to start adding new podcasts to your rotation, and with over 260 episodes to binge, adding Moms and Mystery to the list is a no-brainer. Whether you're looking for something a little more true crime light or something more serious, Moms and Mystery is sure to have something that catches your interest.
Subscribing to Moms and Mystery is as easy as searching their name on whatever app you're listening to this podcast on right now. That's right. You don't even have to turn this one off. Just open your podcast app of choice, type in Moms and Mystery, then hit subscribe. That's Moms and Mystery anywhere you listen to podcasts.
What about Chris Stout and his fourth DUI?
I think he can't live with himself. Don't you?
I think he's having problems, and it's alcoholism now, and no telling what is coming in the future. But a fourth DUI equals a lot of jail time.
So do you think when is his trial?
I didn't look today. They put it off for like a year.
Oh, okay.
So he was calling around the attorney's offices in Sumner County trying to get an attorney to represent him. Remember, one of my girlfriends that works there called me and told me that. So he doesn't have the free lady anymore. The public defender, I guess she's not going to represent him. Or he didn't get a public defender in Hendersonville either, or Sumner County. So maybe, how do
you defend the fourth one?
A fourth DUI in a small amount of time. If that doesn't scream, this guy is dangerous. It's insane. They shouldn't let him out.
No, he could kill somebody.
Exactly. A family, children. It's just, he's a danger to society. Completely. And he belongs in prison.
We'll see how Tennessee handles that.
Well, Ray Whitley is gone. Ray Whitley was the DA in Sumner County for many, many years. And some people got off scot-free, and some people, the book was thrown at them. It just depended on who you were. So he has stepped down mid-term, which was very questionable. But let's see how, the courtroom is now for Mr. Stout.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. There is always something I look for in cases. How do people react or act afterwards? Are they doing riskier behavior that they would normally not do? Are they drinking? Are they doing drugs when they didn't do drugs before? Or if they did drugs, are they increasing? That is a very good tell for me that there's something weighing heavily on someone.
I agree completely. And they use the example the campers did of, our attorneys told us that is just the safest, way to defend ourselves. Bull crap. Okay. If somebody was accusing me or insinuating that I had murdered somebody, I would be talking to everybody about what happened that night. I would tell them my side of everything. I would say I would take a lie detector test. I would do whatever it takes to show the world I was telling the truth. Pleading the fifth? Come on.
Now let's talk about what would you do differently now looking back?
Well, there's a lot of things I would have done differently. I would not have trusted the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department. I would have gone back and looked at Lauren's body when she was at the hospital. I would have asked a lot more questions and done a lot of things differently with the medical examiner. And I had questions when Lauren was buried. The day that we buried her, I didn't feel right. So I think I might have not buried her so soon. It just amazes me now that the Sheriff's Department was just so ready for it to be over with and for me to get her in the ground. Why? I would have gone about hiring a different attorney in the beginning. I would have documented more conversations. Now, I did some, but I would have documented every single conversation I had with Sheriff Ray or Jeremy Taylor. I would have had more of, I think I would have done my own autopsy And whatever that cost, it wouldn't have mattered.
I'm asked a lot, would you consider exhuming the body?
Yes, I would do it tomorrow if I had somebody that I trusted to do it.
To the families that are unfortunately going through this right now, what is the very first thing you would tell them?
Don't trust the police department. That's the first thing I would say. And unfortunately, that's my existence. But I would also tell them to document everything they do, every person they talk to, because they're going to need that down the road. And I think that any police department that they deal with needs to understand that this family is taking this very seriously, and they're watching. They're watching that police department.
Because families like yourself and Pam Cruz for Jonathan and Ray Andriacchio for Christian came forward and are sharing their experience, other families have a chance, I think.
I agree. I do agree. If one family, Sheila, can take Lauren's case and learn from it, I think I've helped. My goal is 100 families to learn from my mistakes and not do those mistakes. And I think they'll get justice.
I'm working with a family right now who she's been asked to be on a board, basically a victim's board. And she's meeting a whole bunch of other families like yours and Pam's and Ray's. And what she said, she called me one day and she goes, everything you've told me has happened to these people too. They must take a course on what to tell families when they're dealing in these cases. And these cases are 40 years old, 25 years old, 10 years old, and they were all treated the same way. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but we've got to change that dialogue between the families, the victims' families, and the police department.
Sheila, I've thought about writing a book about, well, not only Lauren's case, but I think I should write a book on when you are in those moments and you can't think because you've just lost your child or your spouse or, somebody that's just your world. I think I need to put in there the do's and don'ts in that first week.
I agree. I'd love it if you did it. I'd promote it. I'd promote it.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to have some time Thursday for about a week. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to write what I would do differently, the do's and don'ts for every family while they're undergoing this grief.
Or dictate it and have somebody else put it down on paper.
Okay.
But get it done, because I think, to me, only a mom who's been through the actual pain and suffering of going through a case and an investigation can really sympathize and empathize with these people.
The biggest mistake I did, well, one, trusting the police department, but two, not asking if a rape kit had been done on Lauren or had her nails been scraped. All of these things that you trust these departments to do. And then I find out after she's buried and in the ground that none of this was done. So part of the do's and don'ts is make sure that they're following the procedures that they're supposed to be doing for the state, for a police department, for a coroner's office. Why in the world would a girl dying under mysterious circumstances around people who had police records and domestic violence charges, why wouldn't they do a rape kit? Why wouldn't they scrape under her nails? Were they told not to? I wonder. I've always had a hunch that the DeKalb County Police Department said, "Oh no, we know what happened to her, so don't do those particular tests. We don't want to pay for them."
Interesting you bring up the medical examiner, because that's part of the problem in our state. That and it's not just Tennessee. I have it in other states. But the medical examiner, who's supposed to be listening to the body, who's supposed to have the body tell the story, actually listens to the police and does what they say. It's a conflict of interest, and they are for profit. Let's make sure people understand. Medical examiners in the state of Tennessee are for profit. So we are giving them, when you see how much money, it would make you throw up that they're living off these dead bodies and not doing their job.
That's unfathomable. But the public needs to know.
Absolutely. And the way that they're going to learn is moms speaking up like yourself. And we can have the laws changed. If you go into politics or Mike goes into politics, you would be the best advocate for victims' families. I think that's an amazing idea. I'd vote for you. I know you'd get stuff done and you wouldn't give up, and you wouldn't sell out to people.
No, I can't be bought.
That is true. That I do know. Okay. So we've talked about the MTV stuff do you think it was helpful that people reached out to Governor Lee or not?
Oh, of course it was helpful. It brings to light how many people are following Lauren's case. And it's in the state of Tennessee. And Governor Lee, especially since he's coming up for re-election, there's a lot of voters that are outraged. And I think he needs to take Lauren's case a little bit more seriously.
I agree with you. We didn't discuss this too much, but I want to go back to the court case. Being in a courtroom and realizing that you weren't going to get a fair trial, that basic laws were not even being followed. As a victim's family, what were you thinking?
Well, when you're sitting in the courtroom and you were raised to believe in police and the system and justice and all of that, and you're slapped in the face with the fact that you are not going to get any justice in this courtroom, just mind blown of the outrage of how we were treated. And I have the daughter that's deceased. We were bothering them. We were wasting their time. I was berated. You were berated. We had scientific evidence. We had specialists. But yet this judge took it upon himself to try to make us look bad. It taught me a lot. I learned a very valuable lesson sitting in that courtroom, that if I'm going to get justice, I'm going to have to do it myself. I'm going to have to keep on keeping on and find the truth myself. I was not wrong to go into that courtroom. I did what any mom who had, the means to do would do. I just figured that justice was there. And my husband's mind was blown. My mind was blown. But I think somehow in God's plan, it was the motivation for me to do greater things. We may never find out what happened to Lauren. I have hopes that we will. But I think in the grand scheme of things, in God's plan, He's got other things in mind for me.
I think we know what happened to Lauren.
In my heart, I believe she was murdered. I believe that it was a cover-up. I think that campers or friends of the campers had friends in high places. I think that I was a pain in Sheriff Ray's side.
Probably still is.
Probably still is, yes.
I'm going to pause for a moment for a commercial break.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
MTV went through hell trying to do Lauren's case. In fact, the marina where Lauren died, they were told that they were not allowed to set foot there. On the dock, in the parking lot, they were told if they showed up there, they would be arrested.
Wait a minute. The marina where Pates Ford Marina was going to arrest the people from
arrest them.
From MTV.
Yeah, they got a phone call from one of the owners of Pates Ford Marina that they were not to set foot anywhere on the property or they would be arrested. Why? Why did the owners of Pates Ford Marina have such a problem with MTV True Crime? So they went to a different marina, rented a boat there, and came in from a whole nother side of the lake to go up on the cliff. Now, the cliff is government property, so they couldn't be kept from going up there. But they were watched the entire time that they were there. And Chris Yarchuk, who was supposed to help them, he got a phone call from his boss that instructing him that he was not allowed to work with them. Why?
Yeah, this case is never going to go away until they fix it. Now, I do want to point out something about the judge. The judge that berated you and I is the same judge that can't keep his robe closed. He's sending pictures of his anatomy to females.
Yeah. And what did the judicial committee do but slap his hand and put him on probation for a very short amount of time?
Right. And this is what happens in the state of Tennessee. And this judge was voted in. So if he's voted in again, when is he up?
I haven't checked lately.
Oh, yeah. Well, when he's up for reelection, let's see if he's reelected. And if he is, then we know that DeKalb County does not care about the character and integrity of their judges.
Or their law enforcement.
Well, that's a given with Jeremy Taylor. And, the one thing, if I say the name Jeremy Taylor, pretty much anywhere I'm traveling, people know who that is.
Mm-hmm. He was recently given a promotion in the county that he's in now. It just blows your mind, doesn't it? That in the state of Tennessee, that's their law enforcement. So,
well, the interesting thing is in the cases I'm working now, I'm working with the police, the difference of education and just the integrity of the people I'm working with. It's nice to see that there's law enforcement out there that actually does a good job and doesn't treat the families like garbage. Not every one of them's fantastic, but the majority of the ones I'm working with are amazing, and they're working hard for this family. I mean, after doing your case and then Ray's case and Pam's, I was like, what is wrong with our system? Because you and I grew up the same way. I feel the same way. I'm supposed to trust these people to the worst moment of your life for them to do a good job. And the medical examiner let you down, the judge let you down, the sheriff, the deputy, I guess he was a detective, supposedly in name, and all the people that have touched this case have let you down.
It's mind-boggling. But I'm sure I'm not the only one.
No, you're not. You know how many I turn away a day.
Well, Lauren's case has put a spotlight on that area and that police department. And I just think people need to keep looking. Where there's smoke, there's fire. How many other people have died like Lauren that didn't have a mom that investigated, that it was just swept under the rug? I know in my heart there's probably a lot. And I encourage, as I did, with MTV, I said, put it out there. Look into DeKalb County. Look into the deaths in Smithville and Center Hill Lake and all that surrounding area. I just think that there's something there. Okay, so without saying it, I just said it. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. And people are voting them in. Maybe they're voting them in. We're not sure really if they're being voted in.
Oh, well, there's corruption in elections.
Yeah. Yeah. All those dead people that vote.
Oh, yes.
Like Louisiana, they just all rise that day. So. Billy Bob has been dead for 5 years, just voted for Sheriff Ray. So anyway. So, okay. Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know?
We did talk about, I was contacted by numerous people after the True Life Crime airing that they were writing the governor, they were emailing the governor, and the server went down. There were so many. And also, I was talking to a young lady. She's actually a daughter of one of my friends. She's 28, 29 years of age. And she said that after the show aired, that on TikTok and on some other social media platforms, it went viral. That everywhere she went, her coworkers, her friends, and all over TikTok was Lauren's case. And so I think we're close. I think that there are going to be kids, or now adults, that know something. And I think they're going to reach out sooner than later.
Takes one person to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just one phone call away. Now, I want to probably stand firm that I think we know what happened that night. We can probably scientifically show what happened that night. Had we had a chance in court, we would have been able to show exactly what happened to Lauren. And it would have lined up to the evidence on her body that was not taken. So let's see what happens in the next, people need to stay tuned because this case is far from over. You're not giving up, and I don't give up on my cases.
I'm in it for the long haul, and I owe that to Lauren, and she would expect nothing any less from me.
I agree. So we'll have people stay tuned. I'm glad people write me still asking because, there's a whole new group of people listening and having questions. And matter of fact, let me look at this one question about Chris Dowd. He said that, here's what he said. He was trying to understand why it wasn't discussed further about who is Chris Dowd, where Ryan Melanson said that Chris changed his story from he had sex with Lauren that night, and he was wondering if Ryan had misspoken. And I said, no, he didn't. And I thought that was discussed in the deposition, but I don't think I've ever shared the deposition. So what he was wondering is, did Chris have sex with her and realize they were going to do an autopsy and have DNA match, or did Ryan Melanson misspeak? Well, Ryan's pretty firm on what Chris said. There's no question.
My opinion is that the campers had not completely decided what their alibis were going to be. And I think at that moment, I don't think Chris had sex with Lauren. I really don't. Do I think he knows what happened to her? Yes. In my opinion, there were others. I think that Lauren was raped. In fact, I know she was raped from her injuries. But it is my personal opinion it was two others, not Chris Stout. And the reason I feel that way is because I've actually had people, one lady in particular is a behavioral, I don't want to say scientist, she's a behavioral study person. And she just feels that because Chris Stout did not plead the fifth, that Chris Stout has kind of separated himself from the other campers. She just felt that he was not one of the ones that injured Lauren. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Chris Stout couldn't take the fifth legally.
Oh, why?
He's not allowed to. He was incarcerated. He had to answer questions. So he had no choice. That choice was taken away from Chris Stout.
This is the first I heard of it.
He wasn't allowed. He couldn't. And I'll have to look through the deposition. I won't this week, but I'll have to look through and see how he answered the question about sex that night. Because I understand what the behavioralist is saying, but I disagree because legally he was not allowed to.
Okay, see, I didn't know that. I completely did not know that. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that kind of changes everything. But it doesn't change my opinion. Don't give up hope on Lauren's case. Yes, there's been some time that has passed, but it hasn't really passed for me. And I'm not stopping. So you may not hear from me for just a little while, but just know that I'm still working her case and I'm going to get answers.
In every case, there is someone in the community who holds information that may be significant in solving a case. Relationships change over time, and many cold cases are solved when a former witness, friend, or relative is located who is tired of hiding information and shares that information with investigators. If you have any information about this case, please contact our voicemail comment line at 888-599-0008. You can leave an anonymous tip, or you can leave your contact information. We will call you back and speak with you directly. You can also email information to Sheila at SheilaWysocki.com. Without Warning, Executive Director, Executive Producer, and Host Sheila Wysocki. Announcer Tim Evans.